This is a disposable camera lens inside a Sony lens cap. But why does this thing even exist, and why are people buying it in 2024? Let's dive right in. It's no surprise really that the vintage aesthetic is coming back into fashion. Think about photography now, it's crazy. Every year we get these cameras with more and more megapixels, sharper and sharper lenses, wide open apertures, and it's just a very clinical and technological practice. But it didn't used to be like that. It used to be about artistic expression, coupled with some vintage aesthetic that really brought photos to life. Think about imperfections in your images, chromatic aberration, softness across the frame. These things weren't always seen as necessarily bad things to have in an image, so people are pushing back and they're lusting for that nostalgia. So, like I said earlier, this is a disposable camera lens that's been embedded in a Sony lens cap, which I can strap to my camera and take photos and videos with. Surprisingly, it works really well. It has full frame coverage on my ZV-E1, and it feels like almost a compact camera that I can just hold in my hand and take some snaps with. It's a 32mm equivalent and it's f10, so you're not going to break any records for shallow depth of field, but it's quite a nice focal length that I think is great for walk around shooting. As I mentioned, the size is pretty good as well. It's almost pocketable. It produces quite acceptable and dreamy images, and I took it with me on a hike in the Chiltern Hills so you can see exactly how it performs. Let's take a little look at some of the shots that I got.
Different part of
I'm not sure this is the lens to use if you want to vlog. It doesn't focus very close, I don't think. We got views for days. Right, well, you've seen what it's capable of, but let's talk about some positives and some considerations. I'm not going to call them negatives, and we'll get into that in just a second. Some of the positives: it's pretty much the smallest lens that you could ever hope to have for your camera. This thing is a lens cap. Like, it's not like a lens cap, it is a lens cap. It just happens to have a little disposable camera lens in the middle of it, which is pretty cool. It also means that it's incredibly lightweight. and there's no moving parts whatsoever. So whatever you take and snap a picture of, the focus is as it is, so is the focal length, and everything just kind of works, or doesn't in some situations. It has that vintage aesthetic that I was talking about earlier. If you're lusting after that and you're looking for that kind of hazy, dreamy look, then this produces it in buckets with absolutely no problems, and for that alone, it might be worth picking up for you. And if you were thinking about picking it up, you'll probably want to know about the price. Well, there are some popular brands out there that do a lot of marketing and sell these at quite an expensive rate. I opted to get this one from eBay, where it was much cheaper, and I found it to be pretty much identical in every aspect. It's just someone who set up a little business putting these things into lens caps. I think off the top of my head, I paid about 20 British pounds for this, and I think anyway, it's definitely worth it. One thing I was a little bit concerned about is there might be some kind of vignetting, or it might not cover the full frame. Obviously this is made for a 35mm camera, and I have a 35mm full frame camera here, so it all works. And that is pretty surprising, but also pretty great at the same time. Finally, it's just pretty great that they found a way to recycle these things. Imagine how many disposable cameras have been produced over the last couple of decades, and all of those things just went straight in the trash. Well, now you can just get the lens right out, and it still has some kind of value and purpose, and it looks pretty great when I'm using it for a distinct style or look that I'm trying to achieve. So that's definitely something that I can appreciate. Now for some drawbacks or considerations. A lot of the disposable camera look was achieved by having an in-camera flash, and the ZV-E one doesn't have an in-camera flash. I also don't have a flash to put on the hot shoe. So in that respect, I can't really get that unless you're buying this for a camera that does have a flash inbuilt, or you have a flash of your own. Just something to be mindful of, and it's nothing really to do with the lens, but my setup. So there is that. The other thing is I couldn't find a Canon RF mount. Now, I did want to get it for my R5 or my RP. I thought that would be the perfect compact photo machine, but I got it for this instead. I'm still pretty happy with it. Your results may vary, and you may be able to find an RF mount by the time this video goes out, but just something to be mindful of. Finally, this is exactly what it is on the tin. It's fixed focal length, fixed focus, f10. You're not going to be able to use it in low light unless you have a flash, and it just does exactly what you might expect it to do. It's going to remain in my camera arsenal because it gives me that certain look that I just might want to fall back upon in certain situations when I'm putting together specific videos, or I want to get that specific aesthetic. If you're looking for it too, then it's a great way to get it. Finally, it would be pretty cool just to stick like a Pro Mist filter on the front of this just to make it even more pronounced, but obviously there's no way to put lens filters on the front of it. I might be able to jerry rig something or just tape it on it, but there's no filter ring, and I wouldn't really expect that at this price point or at this level of technology, basically. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have new videos that come out every single week on a Sunday at 5 PM. I've been enjoying interacting with you guys, and I've got some great plans for videos that are coming up. As well as that, drop a like and a comment if you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next week.